Question 7 asks you to list all states from the customer table, and then for each state display the number of customers and the number of suppliers. So if we look at the ERD, you'll see that the supplier table has a state field and the customer table has a state province field. So in this one, you don't actually want to go all the way through this path. That would be the number of customers that had stove repairs, that included parts that were purchased from a supplier. That's not what we want. We just want to join these two tables together directly, where the state province here is equal to the state there. And then we want to make sure that we return all of the customer states. So we're going to want to use a left outer join. So let's go ahead and do that part. So we'll select everything from customer, and then to include all records from customer, we're going to do left outer join with supplier on, and then state province in the customer table is equal to state in the supplier table. So on this side we have the customer, and on this side we have the supplier, and you'll notice that the supplier is null for some of these states. So Nevada, CN, Connecticut. Oh, I thought that was CT. Okay, well, what are you going to do? So a fair number of null ones. And then in order to find the total number of customers for each state and the total number of suppliers for each state, so you want to group by state province. And then here's the tricky part. You want to count something, but you don't want to just count the rows. So you don't want to count star. What you actually want to do is count the number of distinct customer IDs for that state. So for example, these are all Oregon. So how many distinct customer IDs are in Oregon? So let's go ahead and order by state province in descending order. Make it ascending order. And then we see all the Californias are together. So how many customer IDs are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 customer IDs. And how many supplier IDs are there? There's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So the number of distinct supplier numbers is 1, and the number of distinct customer IDs is 5 for California. And then for Oregon, there's some repeats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I count 7 unless I missed one. So 7 distinct customer IDs in Oregon. And then supplier IDs are 803, 805, 806. So three distinct supplier IDs. So remember, to count the number of distinct customers, you'd say something like count distinct customer ID. So don't forget, you need to group by state province, and then for one column you're going to count the distinct customer IDs, for the other column you're going to count the distinct supplier numbers. Okay, so question 8, display a list of all stove repairs. For each, show the customer name, address, city, state, zip. So remember that we did this in a previous lab, concatenated the city, state, and zip into one field, and then gave it a header. The repair date, description of the repair, order by repair date, and format all output. So use an alias for the table names and apply the alias to the beginning of the columns projected, like so. So let's look at an example of that. So let's say I wanted to join the employee table with invoices. Select star, from, and then employee, oops, from, and then employee as E, join invoice as I on emp ID equal FK emp ID. And then here I would say this is from the E table and this is from the I table. And then if I wanted to select the name, invoice date, and invoice number, I could select E.name and I.invoice number and I.invoice date. So question 9, show a list of each supplier along with cash total of the extended price for all of their purchase orders. So this is going to require aggregation. So for each supplier you want a single row coming back, so you're going to group by supplier, and then to total the extended price column you're going to use sum of extended price. Sort alphabetically, show money in money format, so we saw how to do that before using single quote $, single quote plus ltrim of this value converted to numeric with 2 decimal places. And then rename column using as. So let's go and instead of for each supplier the total cash, let's look at for each customer the total that they've spent on invoices. So I'm going to start by select star from customer join invoice on customer ID is equal to FK customer ID. And let's see what we get back. And so here's the customer side and here's the invoice side. It has a total price. So if we wanted to total the price for each customer, we would group by, and then whichever fields of the customer we wanted to display, like name and customer ID. And then for the invoice side, we're going to show the total, and here we don't have an extended price, so we'll show the total of the total price. So name, customer ID, and the sum of total price as all time total price. So there's how much each customer has spent across all of their invoices. So question 10 asks you to show for each invoice, so that's going to be a group by, total cost of all parts, which is calculated by multiplying invoice quantity by cost for the part. So let's look at the data in the invoice table. And we have the total price here, but it's asking us to calculate the total cost of all parts. So we're going to need to get the in line item table as well. So here are the two tables joined together. And this shows for invoice 201, we use these parts and had this extended price. And then there's the quantity for each part. So if I wanted to return the total price for this one part, I could do it like this. let's return invoice number and FK part number, and I'll return for display purposes the quantity and also the extended price. And then to get this total, I need to multiply the quantity by the cost of the part. So I need to get the cost of the part as well. So that's going to give me the cost, and then multiplying the quantity by the cost is going to be quantity times cost as they're calling that total cost, so I'll call that total cost as well. Okay, so here are the columns. So invoice number 201, this part, that part, and then cost, total cost, and 202. So price is what you charge the customer, cost is what it costs you. So that comes out of the part table, which is linked to Supplier. And you'll see the markup, it looks like about 100% markup, which is it's pretty standard for retail. So now what we want to do is take this data and we want to aggregate it for each invoice. So group by invoice, and then for the total cost, you're going to be summing that. So question 11, show customer ID, name, and total of invoice extended price values for all customers who live in Oregon. Exclude all others. So you want to first join the tables together and then use a where clause to select the customers in Oregon. And then only one line for each customer, so you're going to want to group by customer ID and name, and then you're going to want to sum the invoice extended price values, so sum of extended price. So let's look at the ERD, and let's see what we have. Customer, and then we need to get to extended price, which is an inv line item. So join customer to invoice, join invoice to inv line item, then add a where clause where state province is Oregon, and then group by customer ID and name, sum extended price, and then return those three columns. Okay, question 12, for every invoice, so you're going to group by invoice, display invoice number, customer name, so you need to join invoice with customer, and then phone number is in the phone number table, so you need to join customer with phone number, and you also need to join customer with email address. And then include duplicates where more than one email address or phone number exists. So let's do stove repairs, because stove repairs also have customers. So select star from stove repair, join customer on FK customer ID is equal to customer ID, join phone on, and then we have a problem because it's called FK customer ID and phone as well. So what we have to do is specify that we want phone.FK customer ID there, and we want stove repair.FK customer ID here. We could also alias these tables. And then we want to join email on customer ID equal email.FK customer ID. So here's the stove repair part, and here's the customer part, and then here's the phone number, And here's the email address. So it says for every invoice, and normally that would suggest a group by, but it also says that if there are duplicates where more than one email address or phone number exists, then we're supposed to list them. So we don't actually want one line coming back for every repair. We actually want one line for every distinct combination of repair and phone number and email address. So we don't actually need a group by here, we just need to select what we want. So repair number and name and phone number and email address. So no group by necessary. So these are not repeats because these are distinct, and these are not repeats because these are distinct, and these are distinct, so this is not a repeat. So this is actually what we want here. You're going to do the same thing for invoice. Question 13. For every stove repair, display stove serial number, type, and version, cost of repair, price of the stove, and the percentage of the price which the repair actually costs. So divide cost by price. So for every invoice, let's display the stove serial number, type, and version. So select star from invoice, join in line item on invoice number equal FK invoice number, and then join that with the stove table on FK stove number equals serial number. Let's see if that's everything we need here. So for every invoice, we have the stove number, the type, and the version. So in this one, the total price includes both stoves and parts, whereas the extended price only includes the stove. So that's why the total price of the invoice is different than the extended price in the inv line item. And this one's actually asking for both the cost of the repair, price of the stove. So what we're going to do is we'll take the cost of the stove and divide that by total price to get the percentage of the total that the stove represented. So let's start with extended price divided by total price as percentage of total. And now we want to format this as a number to two decimal, or as a percentage, whole number with a percentage sign. So first multiply by 100. And then convert to numeric 18, 0. So up to 18 wide with nothing after the decimal place. So there's the percentage as a whole number, and now we'll just add a percent to it. Actually, I think the percent usually comes afterwards, so let's do that. Plus, we might have to do some more conversion. We might have to convert that to a string. Let's see. Yeah, so we have to convert this to a string, like so. There you go. So here's the percentage that the cost of the stove represents in the total price, expressed as a whole number in percentage format. Okay, question 14. For every part, display part number, description, and total number of repairs involved in this part. Then the total quantity of the part for these repairs, total number of invoices involving this part, total quantity of the part for these invoices. So use outer joins to display information for all parts, even if they're not involved in any repairs or invoices. So interestingly enough, this one cannot actually be written using a single query that only uses joins with no subquery. So you can get pretty close, but you're going to have some problems. So let's look at two separately written joins that do half of each of these problems. So the first part, for every part, display part number, description, total number of repairs involving this part. So select star from part, and then we want a left outer join on part so that every part is in there. And we're going to join with the stove repair line item on FK part number is equal to part number. So this gives us every part, whether there was a repair involving that part or not. And we want to display the part number, the description, total number of repairs involving this part. So some of these are null, so if you want to get the total number of repairs, you want to use distinct here. So count of distinct FK repair number as total number of repairs. And then you want one record coming back for each part number. So group by part number, and you also have to group by description, but the description should always be the same. So that's the total number of repairs involving this part, and then the total quantity of the part for those repairs using sum. So here's a quantity field, and we want sum of quantity. Now here we don't actually have to do anything special because nulls will be skipped automatically. I do need a comma there though. As total quantity. So here's the total number of repairs. Here's the total quantity. If I wanted these to come back as 0, I could say sum is null quantity, comma, 0 here. So now if quantity is specified, it adds that. If quantity is null, then it uses 0 for that. Great. So total repairs for each part and the total quantity used in those repairs. Now for the other side, it's asking for total number of invoices involving this part and total quantity. So here, I'm going to write this as a separate query, and I'm going to join with inv line item instead. And this is going to be FK invoice number. And I think that's it for this one. So here for each invoice, for each part, how many invoices they were in. Number of invoices. So how many invoices were they in, and how many parts were appeared in that invoice, the quantity. So the question asks you to write these two queries as one big query, and so you'd have, and I want you to go ahead and do this for the assignment, even though it doesn't return correct results, because I think it's worth the practice. But you're going to want to join part, left outer join, repair line item, and then also left outer join that whole thing with inv line item. And then you'll have all these columns you need. Now there's going to be some ambiguous columns, so you're going to have to prefix them with end line item dot or repair line item dot. So you should get a table that's almost the same as these two tables, but you're going to find that some of the numbers in your second part in this one get overcounted a little bit. So go ahead and do that anyhow, and be sure that your column headers that you distinguish between total quantity for repair versus total quantity for invoice, and you should be good. Okay, last one. Which invoices have involved parts whose name contains the word widget or whatsit anywhere within the string? So you just have to remember to use like and then wildcard widget or whatsit. And then you want to find parts and invoice numbers and invoice dates. So part has the description, and then to get to invoice number and invoice date, you're going to have to go through invoice line item and then up to part, where part number is FK part number. So other than using like with the wildcard search, this looks pretty straightforward. So let's just do that part. Let's find the widgets and whatsits. So capitalization might be an issue here. Let's go ahead and see if we get anything back. Nope. So I think these are capital W's. There you go. Okay, so these are the correct parts. You're going to want to join these to the end line item table and then to the invoice table and pull the invoice number and invoice date. So good luck on the lab, and I look forward to seeing your results.